Hi, my name's Luke. I'm been changed. I'm under new management, and I'm here to just explain to you a little bit how my life has been changed. There was a time in my life where it's very different to what I'm living now. I was mainly, my life was driven by graffiti writing, going out with my mates, just generally drinking and getting up to trouble. I lived quite a wild life, and I think it was leading me very, very much down the wrong direction in my life. I was kind of searching inside, I think, in my life. I didn't have no direction. I never had nothing kind of to steer my life other than just getting really into trouble. And just basically graffiti writing was my whole life. That's all I really used to think about and this used to do. And it was quite destructive to me as a person, even though it's not the biggest crime in the world. I know it's not it's not like, I'm not like saying that, I was some major criminal, but it was really destructive to me as a person, really. Because I felt like in my whole life, I felt like I was struggling to get on in the world in other ways. And I was really searching out things in my life, and I felt like I just couldn't get on in life. I felt like I was at a roadblock in many ways in my life. I felt like I tried to do things, and it felt like I kept running into brick walls everywhere I went, and I couldn't see a kind of a way out. And my best friend of mine I used to do graffiti writing with and stuff like that, he'd become a born-again Christian. And his life dramatically changed, radically changed, like within an instant, within a few weeks. And I couldn't comprehend how someone's life could actually change so radically, so instantly. So it kind of made me question about, what had happened to him, what's going on with him, And he started telling me about Jesus, and I thought, wow, it's Jesus. I never thought of Jesus. I thought, I was so far off of thinking about church or Christianity or anything like that. I just thought. I thought he'd gone mad. I thought he'd lost his mind. I was thinking maybe he smoked too many drugs and he's just hallucinating or something. Seriously, it was so strange for me for him to come back and tell me about Jesus. But as I started to look at his life, I started to see that his life was good, and his life, there was an order to his life. His life showed me that there was so much goodness that come out of this Jesus and about his faith in God, That he wasn't brought up in the church background. He had no understanding of Christianity. He even argued the existence of God with me on several occasions, and he was strongly opposed to Christianity. So for him to completely go from that direction to that direction and start telling me that Jesus was real, it was a massive thing. He would be in his room praising God, and he'd be in his room reading the Bible instead of sitting there smoking drugs and things like that. So it caught my attention, and I was like, I need to know if this is true or not. That's the sort of person I was. I couldn't just dismiss it. I just needed to see, if this is real, then I need to know about it. So I remember going to his baptism, and at his baptism I started feeling like this sense of a presence in this church, a presence of love. I couldn't work it out. I'd never really experienced anything like this in my whole life, And I stood there and I felt a bit silly at first, But as I started to experience this love in this church, I started to break down inside. I just knew that there was more to this than what I first realised. And I felt like everything in me was crumbling inside. All my defences, all my ego and all what I thought I was, all the reputation started to just crumble. And this guy at the front, he started to speak at the front during the time of worship and praise. And as he started to speak, I felt his voice was just connecting straight inside me, inside my heart. It wasn't in my head, it was in my heart. Something inside me was breaking down. And as he started to speak, he started to describe how I felt inside me. And I'd never met the man before. I'd never ever, had in contact with him before. And he started to speak and he started to describe my heart of what I was feeling. And I had this urge at that moment to get baptized instantly. And I didn't do it. It was something come over me and I was just thinking, I need to get baptized. I just knew that was the right thing to do. I couldn't work it out. I didn't really think about it. It was just an unction that come upon me. And I come out of the church and I started talking to my friend and he kind of just dismissed it. And I said, no, I'll tell you what, something real happened in that church. Something was calling me in that church to get baptized. I don't really understand it all, but something was, prompting me to get in there, in the water and do that. So I continued to meet my friend once he'd been baptized, and I was going around his house and I was asking him continuously about Jesus because, I was so interested in what had happened to his life. And he would tell me about the Bible, he'd tell me how his life had been changed and, what stopped him smoking so much weed and all this kind of stuff. And he was talking from experience. He was talking from a reality, something real would happen to his life. I knew him so well, he was one of my friends, so I knew that something very real would happen to his life. So as I started to search, I started to think, I want this for myself. And I remember him giving me a small prayer to pray and asking Jesus to forgive me of all my sin, to come into my life. And he wrote it down on a bit of paper. And I was walking home. I hadn't really prayed before. I remember when I was a kid, I used to say like little prayers, but it wasn't nothing. I never thought I could actually connect with God. I never thought I could actually meet with God. And I prayed this prayer asking Jesus to forgive me and to come into my life. And I said it as sincerely as I could. And I was expecting a massive experience at the moment, and nothing really happened that much. And it was a few nights later, I was walking home, and I was really desperate because I really needed to know whether this Jesus was really real or not. So I called out to him. I said, look, Jesus, show yourself to me. Just reveal yourself to me. Show me something. And you know what? God showed up. He showed up in a dream that night. He spoke to me in a dream. I felt a presence behind me. I could only describe to you as Jesus now, I'm telling you. That it was a figure of a man. He had his hand upon my shoulder, and he spoke to me in an audible voice. And he said, did you pray? He spoke directly to me. There was like an incredible presence in that dream. And I just woke straight up out of a dream. It was so real that it completely changed the course of my life, that dream, that point there. It just changed the direction of my life because I knew that God had heard my prayer, that I really reached out to him and he had answered me. He met with me. So I continued kind of just seeking after God. And I remember I had to just tell my friend about this dream. And I was like, Carl, I'd had this dream. And I started to explain it to me. And I felt this power just flood straight through my body the moment I believed in Jesus. And it changed me on the inside. It changed me. As I come out of his house, I felt different. I felt as a different person, I felt new. I felt like, I just had this realization that God was there and God was with me. It's like his presence surrounded me. And I felt like I was glowing inside, and I didn't feel like I had to, change myself, but he changed me, He changed me when I reached out to him. And it's amazing. It's an incredible experience that actually changed the whole course and the whole direction of my life, you see. See, people are looking for change in life, but sometimes they look for change in the wrong way, And what happened to me, change happened on the inside, and change started to happen on the outside. It was when Jesus came in. When Jesus came in, everything started to change around my life. And now I'm teaching, I'm doing various different things. But it was all because God came in that day when I reached out to him. And he took my life in a different direction. And that's